He stood on the sidewalk and watched the bus pull away. To the west, the White Mountains sawed at the horizon. In all the wanderings he had avoided mountains, especially the jagged monsters that broke the county in two. Now he thought, I have came back to the country. After all, I guess I always knew I would, but these mountains were gentler than the ones still sometimes haunted his dreams, and he thought he could live with them. At least for a little while, if he could stop thinking about the kid in the Braves t-shirt. The Braves t-shirt, that is, if he could stop using the booze, there could be some time when you realize that moving on was pointless, that you took yourself with you wherever you went. A snow flurry of fine wedding lace danced across the air. He could see that shops lining the wide main street catered mostly to the skiers who came in December, and the summer people who'd come in June. There would be probably be leaf peepers in September and October too. But this was what passed for spring in northern New England. An edgy 8 weeks, chrome-plated with cold and damp. Fraser apparently hadn't figured out a reason for the season yet, but the main drag, Cranmore Avenue, was all he desert. Dan slung a duffel over his shoulder and strolled slowly north. He stopped outside of a Roth's iron fence to look at a rumbling Victorian home, flanked on both sides by newer brick buildings. These were connected to the Victorian by covered walkways. There was a turret at the top of the mansion on the left side, but none on the right, giving the place a queerly unbalanced look at that Dan sort of liked. It was as if the big old girl was saying, yeah, part of my fell off. What the fuck? Someday it'll happen to you. He started to smile, then smiled. Then the smile died. Tony was on the window of his turn room. Looking down at him, he saw Dan looking up and waved. The same salmon wave Dan remembered from his childhood, when Tony had come often. Dan closed his eyes, then opened them. Tony was gone. Had never been there in the first place. He could have been the window had boarded up. The sign on the lawn, gold letters on the green green background, the same shade as the house, read Helen Rivington House. They have a cat in there, he thought. A gray cat named Audrey. This turned out to be partly right and partly wrong. There was a cat, and it was gray, but the neutered Tom, it wasn't named Audrey. Dan looked at the sign for a long time, long enough for the clouds to be part and send down the biblical beam. Then he walked on, although the sun was now bright enough on to twinkle the chrome of the few slant parked cars in front of the Olympia Sports and the Fresh Day Spa. The snow still swirled, making Dan think of something his mother had said during the similar spring weather long ago, when they had lived in Vermont. The devil's beating. Oh, God. A block or two up from the hot place, Dan stopped again. Across the street from the building was the Fraser Town Common. There was an acre of the lawn, beginning to show green, a bandstand of softball field, a paved basketball half court, picnic tables, even pudding green, all very nice. But what interested him was the sign reading, "Visit Teeny Town, Fraser's Small Wonder, and ride the Teeny Town Railway." Oh yeah, I think that's the part where when he was in New Hampshire, he found the train and he found all the buildings that were created by the girl and by what's his name that he became friends with, that was in New Hampshire. So yeah, that's where he's going to right now. And so yeah, and it didn't take a genius to see that Teeny Town was a teeny replica of Corona. So yeah, this is the part. Avenue. There was the Methodist church he had passed. Its steep, rising all 7 feet into the air. There was the Music Box Theater, the Spondlix ice cream, mountain books, shirts and stuff, the Fraser Gallery, fine prints of our there was also perfect waist-high miniature of single turret Helen Rivington House. Although the two flanking brick buildings had been omitted, perhaps Dan thought that they were but ugly, especially compared to Centerpiece. Beyond the teeny town was a miniature train with teeny town railway. Painted on passenger cars were surely too small to hold anyone larger than taller size. Taller size. Smoke up from wing a motorcycle. He could hear the rumble of a diesel engine printed on the side of the logo, the old-fashioned gold flaked letter. The Helen Rivington Town Cartoonist Dan supposed somewhere. In Fraser, there was probably a street named after her, too. He stood where he was for a bit. Although the sun had gone back in and the day had grown cold enough for him to see his breath. As a kid, he'd always wanted an electric train set and had never had one. Yonder in Teeny Town was a jumbo version, kids of all ages who could love. He shifted his duffel bag into his other shoulder across the street. Hearing Tony again and seeing him was unsettling. But right now, he was glad he stopped here. Maybe this really was the place he had been looking for. The one where he'd finally find a way to his dangerously tripled life. You take yourself with you wherever you go. He pushed the thought into the mental closet. It was good. There was all sorts of stuff in the closet. A cowling surrounded the locomotive both sides, but he spied a footstool standing beneath one low eave at the teeny town station. Carried it over and stood on it. The driver's cockpit contained two sheepskin covered the bucket seats. It looked to Dan as if they have been scavenged from an old Detroit muscle car. The cockpit and controls also looked like modified Detroit stock. The exception of an old-fashioned Z-shaped shiver jutting up the floor. There was no shift pattern. The original knob had been replaced with a grinning skull wearing a bandana. Faded from red, pulled pallid pink by years of gripping hands. The top half of the sheeting wheel and been cut off, so that what remained and looked like a steering yoke of. Hold up. There was the train, of course. The one which the teeny town passenger can and the big turbo diesel engine. If he could stay off the sauce and prove trustworthy, Freeman, the boss, Kingsley, might let him drive it a time or two. He liked that. Farther down the line, when the department hired the just out of school local kids, there was always the hot spice. If he decided to stay, that was, you better stay somewhere. Oh, you better stay somewhere, Halloween said. This was Dan's day for hearing voices and seeing the visions. It seemed, you better stay somewhere soon, or you won't be able to stay anywhere. He still surprised himself by laughing. It sounds good to me, Mr. Freeman. It sounds good. Done any grounds maintenance? Billy Freshman asked. They were walking slowly along the flank of the train. The tops of the cars only came up to Dan's chest, making him feel like a giant. I can weed, plant and paint. I know how to run a leaf blower. And a chainsaw. I can fix small engines if the problem isn't too complicated, and I can manage riding a mower without running over any little kids. The train, now that I don't know about. You need to get cleared by Kingsley for that. Insurance and shit. Listen, have you got references? Mr. Kingsley won't hire without him. A few mostly janitorially and hospital orderly staff, Mr. Freeman. Just Billy do. Your train doesn't look like it would. Your train doesn't look like it could carry passengers. Billy, where they sit. Billy grinned. Wait here. See if you can think. This is as funny as I will never get tired of it. Freeman went back to the locomotive and learned the engine, which had been riding lazily, began to rev the jets of dark smoke. There was a hydraulic whine along the whole length of Helen Rivington. Suddenly, the roofs of the passenger wagons and the yellow caboose, 9 cars Oh, cabooses, right? Cabooses, my bad. 9 cars in all began to rise to up and the same time. He bent down and looked into the windows and saw hard plastic seats running down the center of each car. 6 in the passenger wagons and the caboose, 50 in all. When Billy came back, Dan was grinning. Your train must look very weird when it's full of passengers. Oh yeah, people laugh their asses off and burn ya film. Talking pictures. Watch this. There was a steel plattered step at the end of each passenger. Billy used one, walked down the aisle, and sat. A peculiar optical illusion took hold, making him look larger than life. He waved gladly to Dan, who could imagine 50 dwarfing the train which they rode, pulling Bradley out of the Labor Day. Bet your ass, Billy rummaged in the coat pocket, brought out a battered pack of Duke. Oh, okay. Dan knew well